Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the SAGE Group. I am Dr. Sukhwant Singh, Associate Professor at SITS Pharmacy. We are studying the subject Instrumental Methods of Analysis, and today we are going to start a very unique and new topic, that is chromatography. Though chromatography is a very old technique, and some portion of this technique have been already taken up in the subject of pharmacognosy, where you have utilized this particular subject for separation of various pigments and various components in the pharmacognosy practicals. But today, in the subject of instrumental methods of analysis, we will observe and we will undertake the study where we utilize chromatography as a tool for the analysis of a chemist, and we will see how organic samples are separated using this technique. And we will not just limit this chromatography technique into analytical techniques. We will see how the various advances have taken place in chromatography, and this tool is now being utilized as a very well established tool for qualitative as well as quantitative analysis. And this is a technique which started off very primitively, but today is amongst the most advanced techniques of pharmaceutical analysis. So let me start off chromatography with a brief introduction to the subject and a brief history of the subject. Mikhail Svet, who was a Russian botanist, he discovered and basically, utilized this technique for the first time in the period of 1906. In 1906, Svet used chromatography to separate the plant pigments, and he called this technique as chromatography because the result of the analysis was written in color along with the length of the adsorbed column. And chroma means color and graphene means to write. So basically, when he used this technique to separate the various plant pigments, he found out various colors of the separation of the pigments, and the various pigments were separated in form of colors. So he named it chroma, and since they were separated out, so he mentioned it like a graphy. So basically, this technique was named chromatography because it involved separation of particles through a process, and they're separated in their various colored forms initially, and therefore it was named chromatography. Though this technique is not limited just to the colored pigments, because now this technique is being utilized for various other processes. And the objective of studying this subject in the instrumental methods of analysis is because initially, though this technique was not dependent on some sophisticated instruments, but now with evolution and with time, this technique has evolved into a very sophisticated technique, and many sophisticated instruments have been based on the principle of chromatography. Therefore, we are studying this subject in the instrumental methods of analysis. So Mikhail Svet, who was a Russian botanist, he used chromatography for the first time in the year 1906. Now, the importance of chromatography can be understood by this very fact that it has got applications in every branch of physical and biological sciences. And as good as 12 Nobel Prizes have been awarded between year 1937 and 1972 alone for the work in which chromatography played a vital role. So this tells a lot about the importance of this subject because many Nobel Prizes have been awarded. बहुत सारे वर्क जो क्रोमेटोग्राफी बेस पे थे या जिनके अंदर क्रोमेटोग्राफी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वाइटल रोल प्ले किया करता है, ऐसे सब्जेक्ट्स को या ऐसे टॉपिक्स को 1937 से लेके 1972 के बीच में लगभग 12 नोबेल प्राइजेस दिए जा चुके हैं, which tells that this subject is very very innovative as well as it is a very very important and applicative science, which is just exemplified. So what is chromatography? Chromatography is a physical method of separation in which components to be separated are distributed between two phases. देखिए फिर से हमने मेथड जो बात करी है, अगर आपको याद हो तो एनालिसिस हमने जब स्टार्ट किया था पढ़ना, so initially when we started studying pharmaceutical analysis, we started the subject with the help of studying the topics which were based on chemical methods of analysis. So we went on to study various chemical methods of analysis like acid-base titrations or complex symmetric titrations or other type of redox titrations we studied, which were all based on chemical methods of analysis. Then we went on to study electrical methods of analysis, like we studied voltammetry, we studied coulometry or polarography or potentiometry. These are all electrical methods of analysis, wherein we plotted a potential difference or a current with vis-a-vis some other factor, and those methods were electrical methods of analysis. Then we started off the another topic that was instrumental of methods of analysis, where we studied UV, visible, etc., which were based on some principle of EMR, electromagnetic radiation, and its interaction with the matter, which we call spectroscopy. So they were instrumental methods of analysis based on spectroscopy. Now we are looking at another method, which is basically a physical method. Like magnetism is a physical process, or absorption is a physical process. You know, so these are all physical methods. So we are now studying a physical method. So chromatography is also a physical method of analysis in which separation of the components is done on the basis of distribution between two phases. So there are two different types of phases which are present, and the components are distributed among these two phases. Now, one of the phases is stationary phase, while the other one is a mobile phase, which moves through in it in a definite direction. For example, when you studied chromatography in pharmacognosy, what we did, we prepared a slide of a thin silica gel and on a glass plate, and we dipped it in a suitable solvent. And after spotting, we saw that the spots moved because the solvent which was placed in the beaker, it moved through the stationary phase of silica gel. So here the silica gel is working like a stationary phase, and the solvent that we have put, for example, water or methanol or any mixture, that acts as a mobile phase which moves on the stationary phase in a definite direction, and thus the separation of components are obtained on the basis of uh, some physical parameter, which we are going to discuss shortly. So the chromatographic process occurs due to differences in the distribution constant of the individual sample component. Right. So it is a technique used to separate and identify the components of a mixture, and it works by allowing the molecules present in the mixture to distribute themselves between a stationary and a mobile medium. For example, a particle, we are having three particles, let us say A, B, and C. And they are having these particles A, B, and C is having some relative solubility between each other. So if I take up a particle, let us say which is A, then I have a particle, let us see, which is named B. Then I have a particle, let us say, which is named C. So B may have, let us say, 80% of B is soluble in A, and 20% of B is soluble in C. So this tells that it is relatively more abundant, or more affinity B is having for A, and it is having lesser affinity for C. Therefore, B will choose to be with the A, and therefore we can have it as a separating substances. So this works by allowing the molecule present in the mixture to distribute themselves between a stationary and a mobile medium. And molecules that spend most of their time in the mobile phase are carried along faster. So the molecule which is more soluble, for example, in this case, if B is more soluble in A, therefore, if B is initially rests with C, A can easily take up B, and therefore B can be separated out from C. So this is the basis of chromatography, and classification of chromatography is done according to the mobile phase. So let us, though various types of classifications are available, we will discuss it on the basis of mobile phase. We will discuss it on the basis of technique. We'll discuss it on the basis of stationary phase, and henceforth. So classification of chromatography according to mobile phase is classified into first the liquid chromatography, where the mobile phase is a liquid. Okay, for example, liquid chromatography or liquid solid chromatography. So this is liquid chromatography. Then we have gas chromatography, where the mobile phase is a gas. Therefore, the techniques like gas solid chromatography and gas liquid chromatography have come into play. Remember, when you're using three alphabets to depict the type of chromatography, the first alphabet will tell you that what the mobile phase is. For example, in this case, we know that the mobile phase is gas, and for example, in this case, we understand that the mobile phase is a liquid. So this is classification on the basis of the mobile phase. Now, if we classify the type of chromatography on the basis of packing of the stationary phase, we get first of all the thin layer chromatography or the TLC, which you have already performed in pharmacognosy. Here, the stationary phase is a thin layer which is supported on a glass or a plastic or aluminum plate or even some suitable material. So it is thin layer chromatography. Then we have paper chromatography or PC. Here the stationary phase is a thin film of liquid which is supported on an inert support like a paper made up of cellulose or some other paper. So that is paper chromatography. Then the third one is column chromatography or CC. Here the stationary phase is packed in a glass column. Now, if you classify it according to the force of separation, that is, what is the force that is involved for separating the various type of components, then we have first of all the adsorption chromatography, then we have partition chromatography, then we have ion exchange chromatography, and we have gel filtration chromatography. We also have affinity chromatography. Now, all these types of chromatography are part of our syllabus, and we will discuss all these types of chromatography, including adsorption, partition, ion exchange, gel filtration, affinity. We'll also be discussing paper chromatography, we'll be discussing thin layer chromatography, and other types of chromatographies. Now, we will start off with the first topic, and I'll stop my class today at the thin layer chromatography section because, of course, it is going to be a very lengthy and a very long subject we are going to study. And also, we have some advanced techniques of chromatography, like we'll be discussing high performance liquid chromatography for that matter, which is a very important technique, and we'll be studying HPTLC also. So now to understand all those advanced techniques, we have to start with the very basic of the subject, which starts with the thin layer chromatography or TLC. Now, TLC is a method for identifying substances and testing the purity of compounds. Of course, this is not limited to this. Many types of TLC, for example, HPTLCs have come, which are high performance thin layer chromatography, and the advanced techniques have come up, which gives us even a better application rather than just identifying or testing the purity of compounds. But of course, TLC in its basic nature is a method for identifying substances and testing the purity of compounds. Now, TLC is a useful technique because it is relatively quick and requires small quantities of material. It is a very cheap technique also at the same time because the construction does not involve having sophisticated or big instrument or costly instruments, and the analysis can be carried out in a simple laboratory using just the basic setup, and even the material that is required for testing is also relatively small. So separation in TLC involves distribution of a mixture of two or more substances between stationary and a mobile phase. And as told earlier, the stationary phase in the thin layer chromatography is a thin layer of adsorbent, which is usually silica gel or alumina, which is coated on a plate. Now, this plate can be made up of either glass, or this plate could be made up of plastics, or even these days aluminum plates are made available, and plenty of types of material have been discovered according to the need of the method. So basically on that plate we apply a very thin layer of the adsorbent. Now then the next phase that we require is of course the mobile phase, which is a developing liquid which travels up to stationary phase carrying the samples with it. So the thin plate where the sample is applied, which is to be analyzed or is to be separated, it is dipped in a mobile phase, and this mobile phase is the chemical which is having more affinity for the sample that is to be separated rather than the silica, right? So silica will just be holding, and the mobile phase will sequentially separate the various components from the mobile phase, and the components of samples will separate on the stationary phase according to how much they absorb on the stationary phase versus how much they dissolve in the mobile phase. यानी कि वो stationary phase के साथ उनकी जितनी affinity होगी उसकी basis पर, और उसके अलावा मोबाइल फेज में वो कितना डिसॉल्व होते हैं उसकी बेसिस पर वो मूव करेंगे ऑन द स्टेशनरी फेज एंड मूव अलोंग विद द मोबाइल फेज के साथ साथ वो आगे बढ़ेंगे, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट उनकी जो रिलेटिव सॉलिबिलिटीज है उनकी बेसिस पर, या रिलेटिव एब्जॉर्बेंस जो है उनकी बेसिस पर वो पार्टिकल्स सेपरेट होते रहेंगे. So now, thin layer chromatography, further we are going to discuss. This is the basic setup of a thin layer chromatography. We just require a beaker in which we have to put in the solvent. And here we dip the TLC plate on which the adsorbent material or the thin layer of the adsorbing material, which is called as sorbent, is applied. And on the origin line, we apply the spot of the analyte, which is to be analyzed. And this is covered with a suitable lid or a proper closure, so that the saturation of the solvent vapors occurs in the chamber or the glass tank, and separation can be obtained using thin layer chromatography. So now let us just take up, I have prepared a small PowerPoint presentation just to observe how this process occurs. So this is the layer of solvent up to which the plate is to be dipped. So this is the plate, and the blue line on the plate earmarks the solvent front where the solvent is to be dipped. Now then we apply though it is pre-applied. So this is where we are seeing that the spots have been pre-applied on the plate. Now the red spot, the blue spot and green spot which you are seeing here, now these spots are different chemicals, of course, and they have different solubilities in the solvent A, and they have different affinities with the adsorbing material or the silica gel G. कहने का मतलब ये कि एड्सॉर्बिंग मटेरियल के साथ उसकी एफिनिटी अलग है और उसकी सॉल्युबिलिटी इसके साथ पानी जो सॉल्वेंट है उसका अलग है. जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, व्हाट आई मीन टू से इज, if I take a glass of water, in that one glass of water I can dissolve, let us say, at most 2 spoons of sugar. So that tells that इतना शुगर उसके अंदर डिजॉल्व है, उसके अंदर 2 चम्मच शुगर डिजॉल्व हो सकती है. जबकि वहीं अगर मैं उसमें नमक डालूं तो 2 के बदले 4 चम्मच नमक भी डिजॉल्व हो सकता है, 5 चम्मच नमक भी डिजॉल्व हो सकता है ना. सो इससे ये पता चलता है कि पानी के अंदर नमक की सॉल्युबिलिटी कंपैरेटिवली शक्कर के मुकाबले थोड़ा ज्यादा नमक एकोमोडेट कर लेता है पानी. तो पानी की सॉल्युबिलिटी अलग हो गई और नमक की सॉल्युबिलिटी अलग अलग हो गई, सिंस दे आर टू डिफरेंट केमिकल्स. सो हियर वी कैन आल्सो ऑब्जर्व दैट द स्पॉट रेड, स्पॉट ब्लू एंड स्पॉट ग्रीन, it may have different affinity or different solubilities with the solvent as well as the adsorbing material. So as the solvent front moves, जैसे जैसे सॉल्वेंट ऊपर की ओर चढ़ेगा, हमने देखा कि जिसकी सॉल्युबिलिटी बहुत अच्छी थी, फॉर एग्जांपल इस केस में ब्लू स्पॉट की सॉल्युबिलिटी बहुत अच्छी थी, तो वो तेजी से मूव करेगा सॉल्वेंट फ्रंट के साथ, वेयर एज ग्रीन की कंपैरेटिवली ब्लू के मुकाबले कम थी और रेड के मुकाबले ज्यादा थी. तो ग्रीन ने ब्लू के पीछे पीछे बढ़त हासिल करी और रेड की सॉल्युबिलिटी सबसे कम थी और एफिनिटी उसकी आपके एब्जॉर्बिंग मटेरियल से ज्यादा थी, इसलिए रेड स्पॉट काफी कम मूव हुआ. मैं इसको आपको दोबारा दिखाता हूं. आई विल शो यू अगेन हाउ दिस हैपेंस. So as we dip the plate in the solvent system, the solvent moves in the plate, and as a result of this, the solvent is, depend on the various types of solubilities, the various components move, and we see that they started off at the same level, but they have been separated, and this type of separation is called as resolution. So the various spots have resolved further, and we can usually, if I want to just isolate this material, I'll just have to scrape out this plate from here. I'll scrape it out and I can easily separate the component. Okay, so this method is very applicable in this particular system also. So again, I'm just giving an example how TLC plates are separated. This is a typical example of a very big plate, which is basically, of course, a alumina plate, and the various components have been separated. The spots were initially applied at one area, and various type of spots show that the various components have separated in themselves. So what all do we require in the practical aspects? And the first step is, of course, preparing the chamber. So what we have is, we have a jar or a beaker, simple beaker, which is having a tight fitting lid, and we add enough of the appropriate developing liquid or the solvent, which has to act as a mobile phase, so that it is 0.5 to 1 centimeter deep in the bottom of the jar. उसको हमने beaker में add करना है ताकि वो इतना गहराई तक भर जाए. And then we close the jar tightly or cover the lid so that it stands for about 30 minutes, and the atmosphere in the jar becomes saturated with the solvent. तो जो भी solvent आपका है, चाहे वो पानी हो, चाहे अल्कोहल, इथेनॉल हो, मिथेनॉल हो, क्लोरोफॉर्म जो भी है, उस जार के अंदर जो एटमॉस्फेयर है वो जनरली आपके उस सॉल्वेंट के द्वारा सैचुरेट हो जाए. Then the next step is to prepare the plates for development, and a lot of methods are available. We can prepare pre-prepared plates also, or we may pour the liquid on the glass plate like we do it in the glass in the labs. And what happens after we have the plate, we prepare the plate for development. So with a pencil, we etch two small notches into the adsorbent about 2 centimeters from the bottom of the plate, and the notches should be on the edge of the plate, and each notch should be of the same distance up from the bottom of the plate. The notches must be farther from the bottom of the plate than the depth of the solvent in the jar. यानी जहां तक dip करना है वहां पे हमको नॉच नहीं बनाना है, हमको जो सॉल्वेंट फ्रंट की लाइन बनानी है जहाँ पे इनिशियली हमको सॉल्वेंट अप्लाई करने हैं वो सॉल्वेंट फ्रंट से काफी ऊपर बनाने हैं. And using a drought capillary tube, we spot the samples on the plate so that they line up with the notches that we have etched. Now, for example, identify what is wrong with the plate which is shown below. Here we can see that the notches that we have etched up, the spots are lying on the notch, and as a result, when you dip the solvent up till here, most of the sample will dissolve back in the jar. जार के अंदर जो liquid भरा हुआ है, जो solvent भरा हुआ है, उसी में ये dissolve होने का इसका खतरा ज़्यादा है. So this is what is wrong with the preparation of the plate. Now, developing the plates, after preparing the development chamber and spotting the samples, the plates are ready for development. And we should be very careful to handle the plates only by their edges and try not to leave the development chamber uncovered for a very long time. Otherwise, the saturation that we have obtained because by closing the jars half an hour before, that will be fruitless. And when the plates are removed from the chamber, quickly trace the solvent front, which is the highest level where the solvent has gone, and mark it with a pencil. Otherwise, solvents tends to evaporate, or they are volatile in nature, and they will you will not find where the solvent front has gone up to. And how do we identify the spots, or how do we visualize the spots? See, if it is a colored sample, then definitely we will not have much problem in identifying the spots. But if the spots are not visible or they are colorless spots, then we employ two methods generally. The first method is to develop the spots using iodine fumes. That is the most common methods. Or if iodine fumes are, our lab is equipped even better, then we can visualize the spots under UV lamp. And mostly the spraying technique is the most common technique, and commercially plates substances are commercially made plates are easily developed with help of either some developing liquid, or we can identify easily them by placing them in the iodine chambers. So visualizing agents are also many. The first one, for various substances, we have different types of visualizing agents. For example, if we have to visualize alkaloids, then the visualizing agent or the developing liquid that we use is the Dragendorf reagent, which shows a colored reaction with the alkaloids. And if we are having cardiac glycosides, then they are visualized using antimony trichloride. The sugars are analyzed or visualized using aniline phthalate, and amino acids give a colored reaction with ninhydrin, and therefore we can visualize all these substances using these compounds as indicated. Now, how do we interpret data, or once we get the spots, how do we study that what is our result? So the factor that we use for study is the retention factor, or RF value, which is specific for each spot that we have obtained, and therefore each RF value for each spot should be calculated. And it is characteristic for any given compound on the same stationary phase using the same mobile phase for the development of plates. यानी कि अगर मैंने फॉर एग्जांपल क्लोरोफॉर्म के 5 सेंटीमीटर की प्लेट पर अगर ए सब्सटेंस को डेवलप किया है और वो मेरा 4 सेंटीमीटर तक मूव हुआ है, तो हर बार जब भी मैं क्लोरोफॉर्म को ए सब्सटेंस में डेवलप करूंगा, मुझे उसकी वैल्यू 4 सेंटीमीटर पर ही मिलेगी. So it is a characteristic of any given compound on the same stationary phase using the same mobile phase for development of the plates. And hence known RF values can be compared to those of unknown substances to aid their identification. तो हम known substances के RF values को compare कर सकते हैं जब भी हम unknown sample की study करेंगे. So how is RF calculated? The value of RF is given by the distance from start to center of the substance spot divide with the ratio of distance from the start to solvent front. Okay. So for example, if you look at the red spot here, the red spot here, we take up the center of the red spot and calculate its difference from the starting line, and we see up to where the solvent has gone. And therefore, for example, if the solvent has gone up to, let us say, 5 centimeter and the spot has gone up to 4 centimeter, then the RF value that we will get will be 4 upon 5, which is to be calculated as ultimately RF value of 0.8. So this is how RF is calculated, and we get a RF value of 0.8 for this particular spot A. And the RF values are often dependent on the temperature and the solvent which is used in the TLC experiment. And the most effective way to identify a compound is to spot the known substances which is authentic next to unknown substance on the same plate. यानी for example अगर मेरे को पता है किसी substance में let us say alkaloid A है या sinusoid है, तो अगर मुझे अंदाजा है कि मेरे अननोन सैंपल में सेनोसाइड ए है, तो उसके बगल में मुझे सेनोसाइड ए का एक रेफरेंस स्पॉट भी लगा देना चाहिए। और अगर ये दोनों स्पॉट एक साथ मूव करते हैं और एक ही जगह पर जाके टिकते हैं, तो बहुत इजीली हम बता सकते हैं कि हाँ, जो मेरा अननोन सैंपल था उसमें भी सेनोसाइड था। एंड इन एडिशन द प्यूरिटी ऑफ अ सैंपल में बी एस्टिमेटेड फ्रॉम द क्रोमेटोग्राफ। एन इम्प्योर सैंपल विल ऑफन डेवलप एज 2 or more spots, whereas the pure sample will only show one spot। यानी अगर एक कंपोनेंट जो कि सिंगल कंपोनेंट का बना हुआ है तो वो एक ही स्पॉट देगा, जबकि अगर वो मिक्सचर ऑफ कंपोनेंट्स होगा तो उसके अंदर कभी भी एक स्पॉट नहीं आएगा, उसके अंदर मल्टीपल स्पॉट्स होंगे या ओवरलैपिंग स्पॉट्स होंगे, कभी भी सिंगल स्पॉट नहीं आएगा। तो हम बता सकेंगे कि ये सैंपल प्योर है कि इम्प्योर है। So let me conclude the TLC with this. The summary that we have obtained is that a TLC plate is a sheet of glass, metal or plastic which is coated with a thin layer of a solid adsorbent, usually silica or alumina. A small amount of mixture to be analyzed is spotted near the bottom of this plate on the solvent front, above the solvent front. The TLC plate is then placed in a shallow pool of solvent in a developing chamber, so that only the very bottom of the plate is in the liquid. This liquid or eluent is the mobile phase, and it slowly rises up the TLC plate by capillary action and adsorption. As the solvent moves past the spot where was applied, an equilibrium is established for each component of the mixture between molecules of the component which are adsorbed on the solid and the molecules which are in the solution. And as a result, what we get is, in principle, the components will differ in the solubility and in the strength of their adsorption to the adsorbent, and some components will be carried farther up the plate than others. When the solvent has reached the top of the plate is removed from the developing chamber, dried, and then separated components of the mixture are visualized. If the compounds are colored, the visualization is straightforward. But if the compounds are not colored, then a UV lamp is used to visualize, or a developing spray can be used for studying the chromatography, the thin layer chromatography section. So this is all about the thin layer chromatography that we have studied, and we'll be starting the next topic, which is paper chromatography, in my upcoming lecture on the same topic. So that's all from my side today. Thank you very much for joining me in this lecture and introduction of chromatography. I once again thank you all, and I thank you for joining the SAGE group. And signing off here now, I'm Dr. Sukhwant Singh, your associate professor at SITS Pharmacy. And today we have studied the basics of chromatography and thin layer chromatography. Thank you very much.